The first scream rattled the empty hall. It was 11:47 p.m., October 12, 1998, when Jim Harlan, the night custodian of Poasttown Elementary School in Middletown, Ohio, stopped mid-mop and lifted his head. Outside, rain hammered the old brick building, and the wind moaned through broken window panes. But this sound, sharp, piercing, unmistakably human, came from the second floor. That floor was supposed to be empty, locked off, abandoned since the late 1980s when a deadly train accident near the school claimed dozens of lives. Parents had pulled their children out, enrollment collapsed, and entire classrooms were sealed. Jim gripped the ring of keys on his belt. He'd heard strange noises before, footsteps when he was alone, a woman's laugh drifting down the staircase. But tonight it was a scream. A girl's scream. The following morning, Aaron Whitfield, a 17-year-old senior forced into detention duty, pushed open the heavy front doors. The smell hit him first, old plaster and damp wood. The school hadn't been a real school in years. Now it served as a community center, but the upstairs remained off limits. He trudged down the main corridor, sneakers squeaking. Then he saw it. A desk in the middle of the hallway. The chair was turned out as if someone had just left. Across the desk, scratched deep into the wood, were the words, "Not buried, still here." Aaron ran his fingers over the grooves. They were fresh, so fresh the wood dust still clung to the surface. His skin prickled. He spun around, certain someone was standing behind him. The hall was empty. By lunchtime, whispers spread among the few teens who still hung around Poasttown for after-school programs. Someone saw blood upstairs, Casey muttered. Sliding onto the cafeteria bench across from Aaron, Aaron shook his head. "Upstairs is sealed. Nobody's allowed there." Casey leaned closer. "Then why'd the janitor quit this morning?" Aaron froze. "Quit?" Casey nodded. "He said he heard a girl scream on the second floor. Walked out, left his keys on the principal's desk, never came back." Aaron forced a laugh, but his stomach knotted. He thought of the desk. The words. The feeling of being watched. At 3:16 p.m., detention dragged like torture. Aaron couldn't focus on his assignments. His eyes kept darting to the clock, the door, the ceiling. He couldn't stop thinking about the sealed wing. Finally, when the halls emptied, he slipped a brass key from his backpack. His cousin, a former janitor, had passed it down years ago. Aaron had never used it. Until now. The padlock on the upstairs staircase resisted, but after a few twists it gave. The door creaked open, and Aaron stepped into the forbidden second floor of Poasttown Elementary. The air was heavier. Cold enough that his breath fogged. His flashlight beam bounced off peeling paint, broken desks, and forgotten chalkboards. Posters from the 1970s curled on the walls. Multiplication tables, faded maps of Ohio. Then he saw it. Another desk. Pushed against the far wall. The wood scarred with deep cuts, Aaron approached, heart hammering. The words carved into the surface made his throat close. "She's still underneath." He stumbled back, flashlight slipping from his hands. As he bent to grab it, a voice whispered right in his ear, breath warm against his neck. "Don't dig," Aaron spun. The hallway was empty. And then he noticed the trail, wet footprints on the dusty floor leading down the corridor. Bare feet, small. They ended at a classroom door. His phone buzzed. A message. "No caller ID, just 5 words. You opened the wrong door." The door creaked open by itself. Aaron raised his flashlight. Inside, a desk sat in the corner. Something pale moved beneath it. The beam froze on a hand, small, white and trembling, reaching out from under the desk. Aaron's flashlight shook in his hand. The pale fingers beneath the desk curled, then slowly withdrew into the shadows. "Hello?" His voice cracked. "Who's there?" Silence. He crouched low, pushing the beam under the desk. For a second, nothing. Then a face slid into the light, white skin, hollow eyes, hair hanging damp and stringy over her cheeks. A little girl. She mouthed something he couldn't hear. Aaron stumbled back, his foot crunching glass. The girl vanished. When he looked again, only dust and cobwebs filled the space. He should have run, but something kept him rooted. That phrase burned in his head. She's still underneath. Underneath what? The classroom smelled of soil, earthy and raw. Aaron moved closer to the wall. The floorboards near the desk sagged, as if warped by water. He pressed his sneaker against one. It groaned. Then, clear as day, a child's voice echoed right beside him. "Help me." Aaron dropped to his knees. His fingers traced the edge of the loose plank. He tugged. It lifted with a splintering snap. Beneath it, black soil. Damp, freshly disturbed, his stomach flipped. Something was buried there. That night, Aaron couldn't sleep. His phone lit up again at 2:09 a.m. A message. Same unknown number. Don't let them cover it again. The next morning, he returned with Casey. His friend thought he was crazy, but curiosity won. They brought a crowbar and a borrowed shovel. By noon, they were kneeling in that same classroom, prying up more planks. The stench rolled out immediately, rot, sour, and metallic. Casey gagged. Dude, what the hell is that? Aaron shoveled dirt aside. An inch down, the spade hit cloth. Torn, faded, a dress. Blue once, now stained dark. He clawed with his hands, heart hammering until something pale emerged. A child's arm. Casey screamed and bolted for the hallway. Aaron froze, every muscle locked. The small bones, the curled fingers. It was real. A body, buried under the classroom floor. And just as he understood what he'd uncovered, the air shifted. Cold slammed through the room. Behind him, the little girl's voice whispered, "Thank you." The sheriff's office arrived within the hour. The discovery spread through Middletown like wildfire. Local papers reported the grisly find, the remains of Emily Reese, age 9, missing since 1963. Her disappearance had haunted the town for decades. She was last seen leaving Posttown Elementary, walking home after class. The case went cold, her family dying without answers. But now the truth was undeniable. Emily had never left the school. Aaron told the police everything, the texts, the whispers, the carved desks. Officers dismissed it as teenage imagination, but one detail shook even them. How could Aaron have known where to dig? By evening, crime scene tape sealed the building. News vans swarmed the front lawn. The community center was permanently closed, but the texts didn't stop. At 11:13 p.m., Aaron's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She's not the only one. The final blow came weeks later. Workers renovating the East Wing uncovered another hidden crawl space. Inside, more remains. 2 boys, both Posttown students, both reported missing in the late 1960s. The school's reputation collapsed. Rumors of a predator who worked inside, a cover-up by administrators desperate to save the district's image, filled the town. Parents demanded answers, but the records from that era had mysteriously disappeared. No staff member was ever charged, yet everyone in Middletown agreed on one thing. The children had never really left. Their voices lingered in the halls, their cries echoing through locked doors, and anyone who ignored them, anyone who tried to bury the truth, paid for it. Years later, Aaron refused to talk about Posttown Elementary. But Casey told the story to anyone who would listen. He swore that after Emily's body was found, Aaron changed, haunted in a way no one could explain. Some nights, Casey said, he caught his friend staring at his phone, pale and sweating, as if waiting for another message from that number with no caller ID. The last time Casey asked what it said, Aaron just whispered, "They're still texting me." The discovery of Emily Reese's body transformed Posttown Elementary from a forgotten building into one of Ohio's most infamous haunted sites. Paranormal investigators still flock there today, capturing EVPs of children crying and desks dragging across the floor. But ask anyone from Middletown, and they'll tell you the same chilling truth. Those kids were buried in silence for decades, and they don't rest easy. Cleveland, Ohio, November 12, 1998. The echo of running footsteps filled the hall, though the corridor was empty. Thomas Rivera, a junior at Villa Angela St. Joseph High, froze halfway down the East Wing staircase. His backpack strap cut into his shoulder as he listened. The sound was unmistakable. Rubber soles slapping tile, quick and frantic, like someone fleeing, but there was no one. The hallway was locked after hours. He was supposed to be the only student left, finishing late in the library. A draft slithered past him. Then faintly a voice, "Don't let them see." The school had a reputation. Students whispered about the chapel that stayed colder than the rest of the building, about the shadow of a nun that appeared in classroom 3C after dusk, about the stairwell where a boy supposedly fell in 1977 and never left. Thomas didn't believe it until that night. He dropped his books, the thud ricocheting against marble walls. "Hello?" Silence. Then, out of the corner of his eye, movement. A figure darted past the far end of the corridor, pale blouse, plaid skirt. A girl. But Thomas knew every student in the building and no one should have been there. The next day, he told his best friend, Mariah. "You saw a girl?" she asked, half whisper, half smirk, as they sat in the cafeteria. "Yeah. Blonde. Maybe sophomore. Uniform looked old." Mariah raised an eyebrow. "Old like last year? Or old like 1960s old?" Thomas didn't answer. His mind replayed the way her skirt brushed the floor, longer than the school's current dress code allowed. Mariah leaned in, voice low. "My aunt went here. She told me a girl died in the chapel during Lent service back in the 70s. Heart stopped. They said she was kneeling 1 minute and gone the next." Thomas forced a laugh. "Yeah, right." But inside, something nodded. 2 nights later, Thomas returned to the library. At 7:46 p.m., the power flickered. His computer shut off, plunging the room into shadow. He packed quickly, heading toward the front doors. Halfway down the main hall, he heard it again. Footsteps. This time, closer. He turned. Nothing. Then a locker door slammed open on its own. A girl's voice whispered from inside. "They locked me in." Thomas yanked the door open, empty, just books and a stray sweatshirt. But carved into the inside metal panel, fresh and jagged, "Help me!" He staggered back, heart rattling. Mariah didn't laugh when he told her. "You think it's the same girl?" she asked. Thomas nodded slowly. "She wanted me to see, like..." "She's showing me what happened." Mariah hesitated. "There's something my aunt never told me until I pressed her. That girl from the 70s. They said she fainted in the chapel, but rumors spread that she was being punished. Locked in. Teachers denied it, but what if they buried it?" The thought sank deep. Thomas couldn't shake it. Friday, November 20th. The school hosted its fall play. Crowds filled the auditorium. Thomas slipped out during intermission, restless. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, past classrooms long unused. The air thickened. Halfway down the hall, he stopped dead. The girl stood in front of him. She was translucent. Her blouse stained at the collar, her lips pale blue. She didn't blink, didn't move. Then she lifted her arm and pointed, straight at the chapel doors. Thomas swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "What do you want me to do?" Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Only a gasp, like lungs desperate for air. Then she vanished. He pushed into the chapel. Candles flickered at the altar, though no service was scheduled. The crucifix loomed overhead, shadows bending strangely against the walls. At the back pew, he noticed scratches in the wood. He knelt. His fingers traced them. Letters gouged deep, trapped. The smell of candle wax thickened. Then the pew creaked, as if someone sat beside him. A voice whispered into his ear, unmistakably female. "They let me die." Thomas bolted for the doors, but they slammed shut. His panic rose. He yanked the handles, locked. Then, in the dark, dozens of faint whispers filled the chapel. Layered, overlapping. Boys, girls, voices of every age. They let us die. They locked the doors. They never told. The air pressed heavy, suffocating. Thomas staggered to the aisle, clutching his chest. The next thing he knew, Mariah was shaking him awake. "Thomas, wake up!" He sat up, drenched in sweat. The chapel was lit again, normal. Students' laughter echoed faintly from the auditorium. Mariah stared at him, wide-eyed. "What were you doing in here?" "They said you passed out." Thomas's throat felt raw. "She showed me. She was locked in." "They let her die." Mariah's face drained of color. "You're saying..." The teachers covered it up. Thomas nodded slowly. "Not just one. More. There's more than one voice." Mariah grabbed his wrist. "Then we're not safe here." That night, Thomas checked his watch constantly. 11:09 p.m. The school was silent in his memory, yet alive in his head. His phone buzzed. Unknown number 1 message glowed on the screen. "Do you want to know how many?" He froze, staring at the words until his hands went numb. "The haunting at Villa Angela St. Joseph High deepens. Thomas has learned the girl wasn't the only one. Multiple voices demand justice. But who locked them in and how many died? And worse, who is sending the messages now?" Cleveland, Ohio, November 21st, 1998. Thomas didn't sleep that night. The text glared at him until dawn. "Do you want to know how many?" He never replied. But the silence was worse than an answer. On Monday, Mariah dragged him into the library. "You look like hell," she said. "I saw her again," Thomas whispered. She pointed to the chapel. "And then, voices. More than one. They kept saying they let us die," Mariah chewed her lip. "My aunt told me something once. I thought it was just old Catholic school rumors." She said back in the 60s and 70s, punishments were brutal. Kids were locked in classrooms, left in storage closets, some for hours, some overnight. Thomas's hands clenched. And if something went wrong, they covered it up. The words sat heavy between them. That evening, the two sneaked back into the school. Mariah had swiped her aunt's spare key. The corridors stretched empty, echoing with every step. They carried only one flashlight between them. By 8:17 p.m., they reached the third floor. The chapel doors loomed ahead. "Are you sure about this?" Mariah asked. Thomas nodded, though his stomach nodded. "They want me to see." The chapel was dark, save for moonlight slanting through stained glass. Dust swirled in pale beams, catching colors of red and blue. They sat in the front pew, waiting. At 8:34, the temperature plunged. Their breath clouded. Mariah grabbed Thomas's arm. "Do you feel that?" Then came the sound. Not footsteps pounding. Fists slamming against wood. Desperate, frantic. It came from beneath them. Thomas shot to his feet. He traced the noise to the side altar. The stone floor bore hairline cracks. His fingers brushed them. "Help us." A child's whisper leaked from the cracks. Mariah's eyes widened. "There's something under here." They pried with the flashlight's edge until a panel shifted. A square of stone lifted with a groan, revealing a narrow crawl space. The stench rolled out, mold, rot, and something metallic. Thomas lowered himself inside. His knees scraped cold earth. The beam of light swept across the chamber. What he saw froze him. Dozens of small wooden desks, broken and stacked like coffins. On them, names carved, faded but legible. Dates from the 1960s and 1970s. And on the far wall, words etched deep, "Left to die." Mariah covered her mouth. "Oh my God." Then the air shifted. Shadows pooled in the corners, pulling together into shapes. Faces flickered. Boys, girls, even one in a plaid skirt like the girl Thomas had seen. One stepped forward, her lips cracked, eyes hollow. "The same girl from the corridor," she whispered. We begged. "They never opened the doors." Thomas's chest ached. "Who did this to you?" But before she could answer, the shadows snapped back into darkness. The crawl space shook violently, dirt raining from the ceiling. "Get out!" Mariah screamed. They scrambled, hauling themselves back into the chapel just as the panel slammed shut on its own. The next day, Thomas couldn't focus. He told himself it had to be hallucination, stress, imagination. But Mariah found proof. In the city archives, tucked in a forgotten box, were 2 yellowed clippings, 67. Student death at Villa Angela, school says heart condition to blame. 1. Tragedy strikes again, student found dead in storage room. Both articles insisted the incidents were isolated. Both claimed the school acted swiftly, but Mariah noticed something. No autopsies were ever reported. Thomas felt sick. These kids didn't die from heart problems. They were left, locked in. Like punishment gone wrong, Mariah's voice shook. And the nuns, the teachers. They covered it, buried it. December 3rd, 1998. Snow whipped against the windows. The school held its Christmas concert. Parents filled the halls with chatter and coats, but Thomas kept glancing at the chapel doors. During intermission, he slipped away again. Inside, a single candle burned on the altar. The flame bent sideways, though no wind touched it. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. Another text. "Now you know how many." He froze. The candle blew out. Darkness swallowed the chapel, and then he heard them. A chorus of voices, not one, not two. Dozens. Boys, girls, whispering all at once. They left us. They locked us in. They covered it up. The voices rose until the walls vibrated. Thomas dropped his phone. It clattered across the stone. The next thing he remembered, he was outside in the snow, gasping for breath. Parents streamed past, laughing, oblivious. Mariah found him shivering near the parking lot. "They showed you again, didn't they?" she asked. Thomas nodded slowly. His eyes looked hollow, older. "They want justice," he whispered. But no one's listening. By spring, Thomas transferred out of Villa Angela St. Joseph. Mariah followed. Neither spoke of what they'd seen, except to each other. The chapel was quietly sealed for renovations. Staff refused to discuss the rumors, but students whispered about strange noises at night, scratches under the floors, desks dragging across tile, a nun's shadow moving where no one stood. Years later, paranormal investigators brought recorders into the building. On one tape, a child's voice can be heard, faint but clear. Don't let them lock the doors again. Villa Angela St. Joseph High still operates today. Alumni dismiss the ghost stories as exaggerations, but former students swear something darker lingers there. Ask around Cleveland, and you'll hear the same rumor. Some secrets were buried beneath the chapel floor, and the dead still demand to be heard, and every so often someone still receives a text. No number, no name, just the same chilling question. Do you want to know how many? Michigan, October 14, 2011. The Yost School had been shuttered for 6 years. Its windows boarded, its playground overgrown with weeds. But to Jordan Willis, a 32-year-old freelance photographer, the place was perfect. Urban decay, he told his wife. This is where you find the real stories. That Friday evening, he parked his Honda Civic on the cracked asphalt lot. The air carried the smell of wet leaves and rust. He slung his camera around his neck and pushed through a gap in the plywood covering the side door. Inside, silence swallowed him. Dust hung thick in the stale air. Desks were stacked haphazardly, their surfaces carved with initials and crude drawings. A faded banner still clung to the wall. Yost Panthers, 1998 champions. Jordan snapped photos. The flash casting quick ghosts of light across peeling paint. Click, click. At 6:42 p.m., his lens caught something strange, an outline in the hall mirror. A child's shape, short, narrow shoulders, a head tilted sideways. But when he lowered the camera, nothing stood there. He frowned, checking the preview screen. The shape remained. By 7:03, the temperature dropped. His breath fogged. He set the camera down, voice low. Is someone here? No reply. Only the creak of the building settling, then, faintly, a school bell rang. Jordan froze. The system had been cut years ago, but the sound carried clear and sharp, echoing through the corridors. He followed it, his sneakers crunching glass. It led him to room 12, an old classroom with a collapsed ceiling. His flashlight beam swept across toppled desks. On the chalkboard, written in white dust, "Stay out of the basement." He lifted the camera. Snap. The chalk words glowed brighter in the photo than in real life. Almost burning white, the floor groaned under his weight. From beneath him came the sound of movement, like feet dragging. Jordan's stomach turned. "Basement," he whispered. "They don't want me down there." Which meant he had to go. The entrance lay in the east wing, behind a rusted metal door. The padlock had already been cut. He descended creaking steps, flashlight quivering. The basement stank of mold and wet stone. Old chairs, broken filing cabinets, and a tangle of wires littered the floor. As he moved deeper, a noise rose. Children, whispering, overlapping voices. He froze, ears straining. Teacher said, "Don't tell. The fire's coming." I can't breathe. Jordan's pulse thundered. "Who's there?" The whispers cut off. Then from the far corner, a shape lurched forward. Small, limping, its face melted into shadow. Jordan stumbled back. His flashlight flickered, then died. Darkness. He scrambled up the stairs, gasping. His camera clattered against his chest. He shoved through the exit door into the night air. For a long minute, he leaned against the wall, lungs burning. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He snatched it out. A text from an unknown number. The fire was never an accident. Shaken, Jordan researched Yost the next morning. Old records, yellowed microfilm, fragments of forgotten news, and there it was. In 1912, a fire had swept through the original schoolhouse, wooden, 2 stories. The official report claimed everyone escaped. But in the margins of a local paper, a single line, "Rumors persist of missing pupils never accounted for." Jordan stared at the grainy headline. The whispers. The warning on the chalkboard. The children were still down there. That night, sleep didn't come. At 3:11 a.m., another text lit his phone. "Come back. We'll show you." Jordan realizes the Yost haunting isn't random. It ties to a buried tragedy the town denied. The children who died in the fire still linger, and they want him to uncover the truth. But if the fire wasn't an accident, who caused it and why was it covered up? Michigan, October 16, 2011. The text glared at Jordan in the dark. Come back. We'll show you. His wife begged him not to, but the whispers in his head wouldn't stop. He had photographed shadows, heard the bell, seen the message. The children weren't done. By dusk, he was back at Yost. The halls were colder this time, the silence heavier. His flashlight beam jittered against peeling paint. He went straight to the basement stairs. Every step groaned under his weight, as though warning him. At the bottom, the air thickened. The stench of smoke, old but sharp, stung his nose. His skin prickled. Okay, he whispered. I'm here. The whispers began again. Louder now. Teacher locked the door. Couldn't get out. He lit it. Jordan's throat closed. His beam swept the walls, catching black scorch marks still faintly visible. Then he saw them. Figures, half-transparent, clustered in the shadows. Children, 5, maybe 6 of them, hair singed, uniforms torn, eyes wide with terror frozen in time. One girl stepped forward. Her voice was barely air. They said we were lying. Jordan swallowed hard. Who did this to you? Her gaze flicked upward, to the ceiling. Headmaster. Jordan dug deeper the next day. Old yearbooks, archived letters. And there it was, Headmaster Charles D. Morrow, praised for discipline and order, but buried in a 1913 editorial was one bitter line. Perhaps too much discipline cost him more than he'll ever admit. Jordan's stomach knotted. The fire wasn't an accident. The children had been locked in as punishment. When the flames spread, no one came. October 18th. Jordan returned once more, determined to capture proof. In the basement, he set his tripod. The camera rolled. Show me, he said. Tell me what happened. The air grew heavy. His light dimmed, and then it unfolded before him. Flames roared, though no fire touched him. Children screamed, pounding on locked doors. Smoke choked the room. A man's silhouette stood at the top of the stairs, tall, arms crossed, the headmaster, watching. Then he turned and walked away, leaving the children to burn. Jordan staggered back, chest heaving. His camera toppled, the fire vanished, but the children remained, staring at him with eyes that begged for justice. That night, Jordan uploaded the footage, but the file corrupted. All that remained was a faint audio track, whispers. Don't let them forget. Don't let them bury us again. Local officials dismissed his claims, called the photos distorted and the whispers pareidolia. But townspeople muttered that old families tied to Yost had long buried its shame. Jordan knew better. The children wanted their story told, but the haunting didn't end. 2 weeks later, his wife woke to the sound of their smoke alarm. The house was clear, no fire. Yet Jordan swore he smelled burning wood. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another message from the same unknown number. We're still here. Jordan never returned to Yost after that night. His photos circulated in paranormal forums, debated by skeptics and believers alike. Some saw nothing. Others claimed they could make out children's faces in the static. The school itself was demolished in 2015. Developers paved over the land, raising apartments where classrooms once stood, but demolition didn't silence the whispers. Residents complained of footsteps in empty halls, of smoke alarms going off at 3 a.m. with no fire. A few swore they heard children crying in the stairwells, and in one apartment basement, tenants reported words scrawled in chalk on the wall, "Stay out." The Yost school fire was never officially acknowledged as anything more than an unfortunate accident. No record mentions the locked doors. No report admits the children who never escaped. But for those who listen closely, the truth lingers. Their cries echo through basements, their presence sears into photographs, and their story surfaces again and again, through anyone who dares to step inside. Even today, some in Michigan say the Yost children are still waiting for someone to finally answer the question Jordan never could. Why did they let us burn? The end.